Hey guys, it's Lauren here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now I'm pretty late to the bandwagon, but I decided to finally talk about this book, Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. People have compared this to the adult Harry Potter, and I have to say, like, in some ways, dare I say, this book is better than Harry Potter. This book is better than Harry Potter. I don't know. There are so many reasons why Ninth House is amazing, from characterization, the narratives, everything like that. I'm gonna differ from other videos. Instead of just doing a general review about Ninth House, I'm gonna talk about the 9 best things about Ninth House. So many different reasons, but we're just gonna focus on 9. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. The first thing that I think makes this book so amazing is that it has a very clear, specific narrative voice. Oftentimes when you start reading books, you usually try to see yourself in the character, and sometimes authors make the mistake of overgeneralizing a character and not making their backstory important enough for you to really connect. But Leigh Bardugo manages to make the perfect balance of a character that we can relate to and sympathize with, but also someone that we can laugh at. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't know, Galaxy Stern, or Alex Stern, is a character who was raised by a single mom in very poor conditions. If we were to define her class status, it would probably be lower middle class or upper lower class. She basically struggled a lot in her childhood. You can see her class status and her racial status very clearly throughout this book. And some of the little jokes, I can't say a specific one, unfortunately. Maybe I'll insert one after this video, but there are many times when she references things like a 7-Eleven, or the way she used to go for food, or how she shot up with her high school friends. Many of those references and allusions are in this novel, and it makes it amazing. I feel like it really makes it clear that you're in someone else's brain, that you're not just reading a general fairy tale. You know, it just makes it more real. That specific narrative voice kind of helps make this book as good as it is. Now, the second thing that makes this book so amazing are the flashbacks. Bardugo does a really good job just seamlessly adding in the flashbacks in the midst of the story. She doesn't make the flashbacks seem random, and it doesn't interrupt the flow of the story. Instead, it kind of just helps us piece together Alex's character, almost in the same way that Alex is trying to piece together herself in the midst of the 2 mysteries going on in this book. So the flashbacks, instead of holding the story back, to kind of add more to it, because it helps us understand why Alex is as gritty and as cynical as she is in this book. As I said before, one of the main things I really love about this book is how just different the way that Alex Stern is written. Because we do often see a ton of books that are written from lower class, struggling characters, but you don't often see how rough and gritty that can be. Which is why I think it was honestly a really clever choice for Leigh Bardugo, who typically writes YA books, to write this book in adult fiction. Because I feel like if we wrote it as a YA, her lower class status would be generalized and made as more of a joke than something to be taken seriously. But here we see Alex Stern struggle with her drug addiction, with her trashy boyfriend that abused her, struggling with her race in school, and how she's struggling to be, I guess, part of some community. Her relationship with her mom, how she actually cussed at her mom, things like that. Specific things that you don't often see in YA books, but are more referenced here, despite the fact that Alex Stern is early 20s, late teens. That kind of makes this amazing. I don't know, I really like the way she wove them in. It kind of helped build the anticipation to see what Alex would do next and what happened in her past to make her the way that she is. So that is the second thing that was really good about this book. The third thing that was so good about this book, again, relates to character, because I really loved Bardugo's characterization. It was amazing, but it's the fact that Alex is an anti-hero. And I love anti-heroes. I mean, we all love anti-heroes, and I feel like with Alex's past, it makes it very easy to write her as this anti-hero. And I don't know, I've always had a love of anti-heroes, There's Jason Todd from DC Comics, if you know, you know. And there's also fanfiction written Draco Malfoy, the way we wished he was written. So we all love an anti-hero, and the fact that she is one, and the fact that it was almost hard to predict what Alex would do in this book, helped make it more interesting and kept us on our feet. So we love that characterization. The next thing we really loved about this book is the 2 narratives, but specifically Darlington's narrative. Darlington's specific narrative kind of helped us see not only the other side of Alex's interactions and flashbacks with Darlington, but also, I guess, the inside of Yale's Leith societies. Darlington's character was useful for that, and as a result, that other narrative wasn't distracting for the book. Instead, it helps piece together Alex's character even more. And not only that, but in the middle of this book, we thought Darlington was dead, which made his narrative even more interesting because Darlington is missing. Like, we slowly realized after the book that Darlington's missing, but his narrative kind of helps reveal what happened to him and why it happened. You kind of slowly fell in love with him as you learned about him through the other characters in Alex's perspective and through his own perspective. Because, I don't know, it's Darlington. His name is literally Darling. He's a darling. We love him. So we loved his narrative and how it worked in the book. The next thing I loved about this book, oh my gosh, it's honestly like one of the reasons why I think this book's a little better than Harry Potter. And it's because the headmaster and like the larger societies at play from outside the school have a larger, more controlling, fist in the school. I feel like in Harry Potter it's a little unrealistic. I mean, it's like a children's book, so I mean, I'm not gonna go on it for that too much. But one of the things is that Dumbledore was a very manipulative person, and we kind of see that more like we realized that later as we grew up and we look back and we're just like, wait, it was messed up how you raised Harry like a pig for slaughter. That was a little messed up, But in this book, we can clearly see how the headmaster and the larger society pulling strings from outside are really manipulating and maintaining control, and how it's even harder for a heroine or anti-heroine to rise. So, I don't know. I really liked how the outer society helped raise the stakes of what Alex was doing, because larger society kind of reminds us that the character isn't all powerful, and while they're doing something, it's not necessarily approved of by everyone else in the society. Yeah, literally everyone else in the society. So, I don't know. I really liked how that worked. I hope that made sense. I feel like my thoughts are a little all over the place. Whatever. Anyway, the next reason I like this book is because it's written almost like a mystery novel. And honestly, it's weird for me to say that because I've never read a mystery novel, but it's written how I'd imagine a mystery novel would be written. Like, there's a murder. There's like some mystery going on. The main character, the antagonist, is trying to decide whether or not she's going to take the case. She talks to the local police. She talks to the locals in general, trying to figure out clues and figure out what happened. And she's working against an elite that don't necessarily want her to find out what's going on. It's very, I don't know how to describe it. Some famous author that's written mystery in this way. I will insert a name because it's literally on the tip of my tongue. But you get what I'm trying to say. And it almost has like a vigilante sense to it too. So basically it's written like a mystery detective novel, like a crazy PI just trying to figure out what's going on and fight for justice and all that jazz. And it's also written like a vigilante, someone who's going against the system and trying to make the law into their own and yada yada yada, all for good sake. Not necessarily though, because they're a little bit messed up and they have a dark past, but still for good sake. That's the kind of vibe that this novel gives. So, hands down, really good job writing it that way. The next thing I really liked about this book was Dawes and Alex's relationship. If we're still going with the Harry Potter illusion, Dawes would be Hermione Granger if she was sorted into Ravenclaw, She's not quite as boisterous, she's a little shy, she likes to stick to her studies and her books, and she tries to stay out of trouble as much as possible, but somehow she's still dragged into it by her more boisterous friend, Alex Stern. And I feel like in Harry Potter, a lot of the characters are written almost as like maternal figures, like Hermione was always telling Harry, think rationally, don't do this, like have you been taking care of yourself, yada yada yada. Freaking Jenny Weasley in the movie tried to tie his fucking shoes, Luna was trying to be like the more mystical, revealing things about his soul kind of character, like we see those kind of female characters affect Harry and kind of make him seem more, I guess, human or like better his character. But in this case, we see Dawes do that, like the Hermione-esque character do that for another female character, which I enjoyed to see because I feel like we don't get enough females friendships as like the head of a story, or if it is females friendship, it's like, I don't even know, like the other girl is like lacking in some way, but we don't see Dawes lacking in some way. She's actually a very comforting motherly figure for Alex, and at the same time almost like a little sister figure. So they have a very interesting relationship that we don't often see between two female characters instead of a female character and the center male character. So I also really enjoyed seeing that dynamic play out in the book, and honestly, I don't even know, I really like Dawes as a character. So we love her. The next thing I really liked about this book was the fact that there were many, many serpent references. It took me a while to realize why there's a big ass fucking snake on this freaking cover, but we learned because of Alex's dead best friend calling her this being that has a snake just waiting to like pounce on people on the inside. There are many references to the snake, and like whenever the reference of the snake pulled up, we're always like, oh shit. something's about to go down. And I don't know, I love the way that imagery was used in this book. And it kind of made us question what Alex's powers are, you know, like what kind of being is she? Because she's clearly different from anyone else in Leigh. Anyway, the next and final thing that I loved about this book was how, even though it was like written as like this fantasy university thing, there are very clearly human moments and human problems in this book. For example, battling corruption in the education system of this country, you know, like freaking like sexual assault allegations and sexual assault in college. You know, like actually trying to figure out what the fuck you want to study and like what you want to do in college. Stuff like that. Those little like human problems kind of help ground us further in the story, and it made it seem all the more realistic because, again, like in Harry Potter, it's just this entire separate world. They don't like struggle with normal like struggles that we do, but like here you clearly see the same struggles that you'd face in the actual world. So those are my top 9 reasons why Ninth House is such a good book. If you like this video, you should like, comment, and subscribe. I have an Instagram and a Twitter. You should follow me. I have both accounts linked down below. And I guess that's all I have to say. I will see you guys in the next one, and goodbye.